My name's Lynn Narroway, and I'm very lucky to be sponsoring Clare Balding this afternoon. At Seabourn, we love conversation, we love art, we love cultural experiences. And I think Clare Balding is just a national treasure. She's, you know, one of the most amazing broadcasters, and I think whenever I hear her on the radio or on the television, you know you're in for a fantastic experience. And today she's being in conversation with Anneka Rice, who I'm very proud to say I knew 20 years ago standing at our Children's Sports Day, standing on the sports field, so it's a delight to see her again today. Before they come to the stage, just a few bits of housekeeping. Please, could you turn your mobile phones off so that doesn't disturb our experience and conversation today. And just to say, this wonderful book that Claire's going to talk about today, they're available for sale after the conversation, and also she will be signing them. So enough for me. Please welcome to the stage Clare Balding in conversation with Anneka Rice. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
I must have taken that.
Oh, right. This is so exciting to be here. I mean, I obviously live on the Isle of Wight, but Claire doesn't, and I've been trying to drag her here for a long time, and I had to use, in the end, an excuse of the Isle of Wight Literary Festival to get her here. Can you hear me all right?
I ought to point out, I didn't need to be dragged.
No.
I honestly, I was very keen to come. It was fitting it in was the difficulty. And Anneka's very persistent, and I was slightly scared. So I thought, let's give myself a safety blanket of an official event, then you're all witnesses to this, and if I go missing, and no one knows where I am, Seaview is where I'll have been taken and held hostage.
Because we do have our relationship didn't start off that well. I know we're not here to talk about our relationship, but since you know, you brought it up in a sort of oblique way, I just wanted to say...
No, you invited yourself to the book launch party of my first book, My Animals and Other Family. That's how our relationship started. She suddenly appeared.
Because I
said, oh, hi.
I have stalked Claire for quite a long while. We do live on opposite sides of the river, and she often walks with Alice, her wife, backwards along the riverbank. Backwards.
No.
Oh, God, this is going so wrong.
No, I walk a lot. This is in West London. And
like this.
And I went through a little stage of, I'd been filming in China, and I saw all these people walking backwards very early in the morning. I was off filming with pandas. It was very exciting. And I thought, that's interesting. Why are they doing that? And so I asked, and the custom was if you walk backwards, it triggers all these different things in your brain. It's really good for you, exercises different muscles, and the Chinese believe it slows down time and stops you aging. So I thought, hell, I'll give that a go.
Didn't work, though, did it?
It's such... So harsh. And so we were walking down near where Annie lives in London, and Alice is walking forwards like a normal person, and the dog's ahead of us. Well, actually, he was behind us, because that was my excuse, and I'm walking backwards like
and
this.
hang on, I'm here.
Oh, reenactment.
I'm walking along.
Full reenactment.
So I'm going for a walk.
This is how the conversation goes.
And I go, oh, God, it's Clare Balding. Hi, Claire.
Oh, God, hello.
Hi.
Anneka Rice. Hi,
and then we both stand around quite awkwardly for about 10 minutes, and then we just all go on our separate ways. But I think to myself, at least we've made eye contact.
No, totally misremembered.
Oh, God.
She said straight away, were you walking backwards? And I said, no. I was looking for the dog. And Alice, who was with us, said, no, she was walking backwards. She does this all the time. It's terribly embarrassing. So that's how we bumped into each other originally, and then she just hasn't stopped bothering me since. So. And
now the most annoying thing is she knows where I live.
I do.
So now, whenever she and Alice need a pee, that is when they knock on my front door, not because they want to see me or spend some quality time.
No, but
look again.
In return, the last time we went for a walk together, just you and me.
Yeah.
You needed a pee, and I said, oh, I know someone who lives on a house right by Chiswick Bridge,
Oh,
right at the
yes.
end of the boat race. So we knocked on his door and said, Derek, I texted him and said, are you at home? I'm with Anneka Rice. She needs a pee. I'm not even joking. And so we knocked on his door, and you said, what a lovely man. And
I just think there's a book here, kind of river walks with pee stops along the route. Anyway,
it's not the book we're here to promote.
no, we're not. So, do you know, we are here to talk about your literary career, which is quite extraordinary, but you'll all know Clare from so many different things. I mean, as was said in the introduction, she is a complete national treasure. We think of you, whenever we think of some sort of seismic national occasion, Clare will be there. Big sporting event,
Slightly
Clare
worrying.
will be there. No, but you're always... Actually, why are you always there?
Is there a connection?
Yes, that's a bit worrying, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, it's lovely that you're here. And do you know what? As we walked in and we saw the dogs there, people have brought their dogs,
I've met
which is
Mocha,
lovely.
who's a lovely guide dog, and I've met assistant's dog, who's a very unusual breed called a Hoverwart from Austria.
Yeah.
And they look a little bit like a cross between, and this is why, because they said to me straight away, do you know what this dog is? And my favourite game is guessing breeds. I'm quite good at it usually, but I'm looking going, it could have a bit of flat coat retriever, could have a bit of Belgian Shepherd, which it might have done originally when they created the breed. But it's a big black hairy thing, and he's lovely. It is a he, isn't it? Good for you. Anyway, he is a Hoverwart.
It's lovely to have dogs at an event, because when Clare launched this lovely book, when it was released, The Isle of Dogs, there was a book launch at a famous bookshop in London.
That one as well. Or did I ask you to that one?
You asked me to that one, Clare, because she's really quite cruel. But I quite enjoy it, weirdly. It's sort of like being back at school and it's like having a crush on the school bully. That's my relationship. Anyway, can I just say, because this is really turning into, this is not how we planned it.
We didn't
plan it, that's the problem. But anyway, it was very gratifying walking into Daunt's, this famous bookshop in the centre of London, which is like something out of a, Diagon's Lane in Harry Potter. There's books piled up, narrow little passageways, and all these big, friendly dogs wagging their way around. Books were going flying, and all the staff at Daunt's was sort of having a nervous breakdown. But it was sort of joyful. And,
it was lovely.
And dogs bring a kind of joy to anything, don't they?
Oh, they bring a massive joy to everything, but also what a great conversation starter. You can walk straight up to people, can't you, with a dog and start a conversation at their dog. Obviously, eventually, you might look up at them. I mean, we've gone years, actually, knowing all the dogs' names in our local park, not necessarily the owners. Yes, exactly. And then you get to that stage 3 years later when you still don't know the owner's name, but you know, Tatty and...
And is there a sort of a language between you and Alice? Do you go, have you got up to the upper thigh level yet? And then have you reached the belt?
Weird. No, stop it.
No, because if you are looking just at the you're not looking in the eyes of the owner.
That does remind me, I'm going to tell you a very quick story about, Alice and I went to Paris when we were doing a job. This all connects with not looking up or not being able to look up. I was asked to do the Pirelli calendar.
What?
Well, quite. That's what my mother said. And I said... Mum, I'm not going to be in it. Don't be ridiculous. Pirelli have booked me to do the media launch for the Pirelli calendar.
Oh, you're not going to be in it?
No, I wasn't in it.
In rubber or something?
No, I wasn't in it.
Okay.
But various people were, including Helen Mirren, Nicole Kidman, Kate Winslet, Serena Williams, Uma Thurman, Charlotte Rampling. And the theme they had that year was naked, as in not in no clothes, but no makeup. And technically no surgery either, but, Anyway, I go to Paris. I said to Alice, you've got to come with me. She very rarely comes on work trips. I mean, she's only come to protect me from you on this trip. And because we're recording Ramblings tomorrow with Alan. So, that's why we're here to have a very jolly 2 days. Anyway, we're in Paris, staying at the Ritz. And I know, exactly. And I mainly went because I'm convinced that Kate Winslet would be my best friend if we ever met.
Oh.
And I went because I thought Kate Winslet's going to be there and this will be like you were with me.
I obviously understand that.
That's my pash. So I'm like, okay, we'll go. And Kate Winslet sadly wasn't there, but Nicole Kidman was, Uma Thurman was, Helen Mirren was.
So who was your next best friend?
Helen Mirren. And is. Oh no, that will come to that. So Alice and I said, we better go downstairs and see the swimming pool, very famous, very beautiful swimming pool at the Ritz. So we get in the lift and we've got our, dressing gowns on and stuff for the spa. And we go down in the lift, and into the lift walks this incredibly tall, very beautiful woman. And she gets out of the lift at ground floor, and I said, we're going down to the spa and might see you later, blah, blah, blah. I said to Alice, did you notice who that was? And she went, I only saw her navel. I said, that was Nicole Kidman. Oh, God, even if I'd looked up, I'm not sure I could have seen her. Super tall, super lovely. But Helen Mirren did become our friend. We sat up drinking with her and telling stories about the Queen,
Oh, but have you seen her again?
Yes, I invited her to the Derby. Yeah, she came with her husband Taylor to the Derby a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He's mad keen on racing.
Oh, right,
yeah.
okay.
And so he was very excited
Oh,
to come
right.
But you've come to Epsom with us, you see?
Going to Epsom with Clare is a thing of joy, because the thing about Clare is that she's very well known in the horse community. And so you do feel like you're with a member of royalty. Well, let's face it, I am practically with a member of royalty when I'm with Clare Balding. But it is wonderful to see it, from your perspective. And the thing is, we're all sitting having a very nice day in hospitality and doing the occasional bit of betting, and someone's giving us some advice. And Clare always pops off because she's got to talk to Prince Charles about something, or present some sort of cup, some sort of trophy to someone. I mean, it's a busy day for you. You don't just go and watch the racing, do you?
No.
And the other day, I know this is about me.
I mean, it would be like going to Chelsea with Alan. It's like, it's like that. You're in your zone and you can't, it's lovely to be there, but it's very hard to just chill out and have a glass of wine.
Yeah. Well, yes, I can understand that, but it is the most sort of extraordinary thing. And the other day I had the most wonderful day out at her brother's stables.
Oh, you did.
Now,
this is high-level stalking
this
now.
Is...
Because I wasn't even there, and she said, I'm going to your brother's stables. I'm like, why?
Oh,
because
God.
She's got this secret desire to work in the stables.
Yeah, that's actually
Genuinely.
a conversation we had. I had always had it, because I used to love those books when I was a child. Did anyone else read them? The Jill books. Jill's Perfect Pony, Jill, A Stable for Jill, Jill's Gymkhana. And so I said to Claire as a joke one day, God, I'd love to just go and work in your brother's stables. Well, by the next day, she'd set up some whole itinerary with me on the gallops, at dawn with your brother, and some sort of red rum equivalent.
Genuinely, if you wanted to ride in a race, we could make that happen.
No, I wanted to do the shit shoveling.
Sorry, okay.
Anyway, I went to her brother's stables, imagining you'd be stepping over shit, and it would, there'd be sort of knackered old horses all the way
round.
round.
A formal apology for the language. I fell into that trap by copying her, but she set that up. For those who were offended, I'm sorry.
Her brother's stables are, it is, how would you describe them? I mean, it's something...
They're very, very beautiful.
They're beautiful, and there's this timetable on the wall, and it's not the itinerary for the workers in the yard. It's the horses' timetable, and there was one horse that was having a day at the seaside, and there was. It was like being at the school after school clubs. The things they were up to.
Yeah.
Someone else was in a hairdresser swimming.
They might have swimming, massage.
No, it was incredible. Yes. Yeah. Can we get back to obviously why we're meant to be here?
On it, so
so
what's it called?
Isle of Dogs.
Well done.
No, that's actually one I have read.
Have you?
Yes, charming. It's really nice.
Alice's chapter's very good, isn't it?
Alice's chapter's lovely, because Alice at the end, well, it's rather nice because you haven't got a dog at the moment, for all sorts of reasons. Actually, come on, tell everyone your reasons.
Because he died.
I know,
yes.
but how soon after a dog dies do you then think about?
I think some people would go straight away.
Yeah.
For various reasons, we couldn't, mainly because I know this can be like swearing in church to some people who. Some dog lovers don't think you can like cats as well and have cats, so I'm just putting it out there, you can actually like both. And our cat was having kittens, and she just had kittens, so we thought we can't really...
literal kittens, not going, ah! No, sorry.
An actual litter of kittens.
See what you mean, yeah.
And we kept one of them, and he's called Eric, and he is very, very timid. I mean, like really scared of everything. And
Right.
we're just slightly nervous and didn't want to bring a puppy into that environment while we still live in London. So basically we bought a new house and we're building a house from scratch so that we can have a dog and open the doors and it be safe and garden and everything that's nowhere near a road. And that's what's happening.
Okay.
So until that is ready, we're not going to
Okay.
put a dog into that situation.
I'm always intrigued with someone who's so prolific in the book department, how you think of these ideas for books. Because you started off with My Animals and Other Family, which was more sort of memoir, autobiographical.
Very much memoir, yes.
But it was about, this, your menagerie, your life with dogs and horses, and, it was glorious. And then is it an agent or a publisher that says, can we have the next one, please? Or have you just got all these ideas in you?
No, generally it's a publisher putting you under pressure.
Okay.
Saying you should really
So did the publisher say, come on, dogs?
No, this was the idea I wanted to do, because I'd wanted to do this as a television programme, because I actually think dogs tell our history and tell us an awful lot about British culture.
Yeah.
And as we know, dogs bred for lots of different reasons and help us in our daily lives. And I get really depressed by the immediate headlines caused, again today actually, by a dog behaving badly, which is a rarity, a real extreme rarity. But you would think from the headlines that every single dog is, programmed to kill. And the dogs that are doing really good stuff every day, genuinely saving people's lives and helping them in so many ways, don't get that publicity. So really I wanted to write something that was in glorification of dogs, but in the process did quite a lot of historical work. So I went to the Kennel Club Library and looked back at the very first, so Crufts, I think, started in 1861, but became the big thing that it is in the 1890s. Dog showing really took off, and hugely popularised by Queen Victoria, who was the first monarch to really have dogs in the home and in portraits, and you could see the dogs being part of the children's lives as well.
Pets. So was that the first time a dog became a pet rather than a working dog?
Exactly right. So members of the aristocracy might have had lap dogs, but their big dogs would have been in outside kennels.
Yeah.
What Queen Victoria did was really popularise that idea of dogs, and actually Eos, who was Prince Albert's greyhound, went on honeymoon with them. I think that's quite right. I mean, I can't think why you wouldn't go on honeymoon with your dog.
That's very sweet, isn't it?
It is, and when you look at her records, so she also had all sorts of different breeds, because people were going off, building the empire, and they'd go into new countries and think, what should we take back? Well, the Queen really likes dogs, so let's...
So that's how all these...
The first Pekingese in this country was a little thing taken from the palace in Peking, and she was called Lootie because she had been looted from there and brought back and given to the Queen.
Okay, so
she had Borzoi, she had Eskimo dogs, she had, really exotic, and obviously famously towards the end she was very fond of a pug, and as there's a classic photo of her with her pug on her lap, and I tell you, it really is spot the difference. But they say we grow to look like our dogs. But there was also very famous, in the world before Instagram, they had something called the carte de visite, and the Queen in mourning obviously had disappeared off to Scotland, and no one was seeing her for months, and months turned into a year, and the court was getting pretty concerned and saying, you need people to see you. So she issued this photo of her and her smooth-coated collie, and it became the best-selling carte de visite of the time, because it sort of showed her being comforted, and the dog's got its head on her lap, and it's very sweet, and she's got her hand, and it was a sort of acceptable form of comfort, because it wasn't from another human being, and she's all in black, and, and the dog's sort of looking mournfully at her, which is actually another element. I think dogs are so important in everything we go through, in the empathy that they have, but also just in getting us out every single day, making us meet people, and for loads of folks who are going through tough times. I mean, I've met so many people who've come and talked to me about how their dog has helped them deal with grief, and that is a huge thing for anyone to be able to do for you, but for a dog...
Well, I always remember, I told you this story, my niece was staying with me, and she was having a hard time at school, and, she's having, we had a lovely weekend, but halfway through, she said, oh, God, I just wish I could text Stanley, and that's her dog. She missed Stanley so much.
Yeah, I used to write letters to the dogs when I was away at school.
Did you?
Yeah, I think they quite enjoyed them.
Yeah.
You know. Who knows?
We used to ride on the back of one of them.
Yeah, well, the lurchers were big enough when we were very little. I mainly made my brother do it because I knew he was going to fall off, so, you know. Good for him. And my dad said we had to fall off 100 times before we could be proper jockeys, so anything counted.
And did the Queen really come for breakfast?
Yes.
Oh, I'm just loving the thought of her sitting there with her scrambled egg while you're on a dog, pretending to be a horse. And there's just chaos reigning. Yeah. I love that picture.
And usually Dad would tell us when the Queen was coming for breakfast, and that was helpful to know. But occasionally he'd forget. So she would come to see the horses. So my father trained racehorses for the Queen, and she probably had, I don't know, 6 or 7 with him. She had lots of different trainers, but she would arrive with very little security. I mean, literally 2 guys with her who would, you know, keep out the way, very, very low key, and she'd be off, see the horses on the gallops, come and have breakfast, and then go on to the next place. And I do remember charging into, we were suddenly having breakfast in the dining room, which never happened, and these 2 chaps were in the kitchen. I was like, who the hell are they? And then went steaming into the dining room. There was the Queen.
Oh, I see. So you did go into the dining room.
Well, I was meant to then curtsy, but they were all talking, so I didn't. And I just went and got my breakfast, and I was going through a phase of having sausage on toast with marmalade, which is really delicious.
Lovely.
Really delicious.
Love the thought of that.
You've got to...
Sorry, I've realised I'm turning my back on half the audience. Are you doing the same there? Should we be a bit more...
I think they're okay.
Full frontal. Okay.
Anyway, you've got to... If you're having your sausage on toast with marmalade, you've got to cut it long ways. See what and that's quite tricky to do because they're quite slippery, sausages are. So I was holding this sausage very hard, trying to cut it long ways, and it suddenly shot out of my hand.
No, it didn't.
At the Queen.
What did she say?
Well,
did she open a handbag and say, oh, I've got one of those
I've got here some marmalade. It's some marmalade, exactly. No, she looked at me a little disapprovingly.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a story in here, actually, about having lunch at Windsor Castle.
Will you give us a little reading? This is developing into a very charming little talk, isn't it? Now we're actually on message a bit more.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Not long before London 2012, I was invited for lunch at Windsor Castle. It was only a small gathering, no more than 10 or 12 people in total. I drove to the ancient entrance and chided myself that I hadn't had my car washed. I had expected to be parked in a far-off car park well out of vision, but instead I was sent through the fortified gates of the oldest and largest occupied castle in the world. Just like to say, I'd like to add in the odd fact, so you can take that away with you next time it comes up on a quiz show. Windsor Castle is the answer. I parked in the quadrangle as instructed and was shown up to the drawing room, where the assembled guests stood nervously sipping on pre-lunch drinks. I drank water and tried not to gulp, fearful of needing to go to the loo at the wrong time.
That's such a lie. You wouldn't drink water.
I did.
Okay.
I'm having lunch with the Queen. Of course I'm drinking water. Yeah. I don't remember if a servant banged a stick on the floor, but the atmosphere in the room changed, and everyone stopped talking. We looked towards the door. In trotted 3 corgis, followed by the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. The Queen moved amongst the guests, chatting easily and asking everyone what they'd been up to and how their journey had been. Again, I don't know whether a signal was given, but suddenly the corgis started to make their way towards the door. I was next to the Queen, so I followed her lead. Not her literal lead, just, her lead. And we went out into the long, narrow corridor. Windsor Castle has been home to 40 monarchs, dating back to William the Conqueror. And although it has been modified in that time, it is a place that oozes history. Paintings and suits of armor decorate the walls, and there is much to take in, but any sense of grandeur was completely dissipated by the scene I witnessed as the corgis trotted ahead of the Queen, one of them playing with a small squeaky toy. Do they know where they're going? I asked. Of course they do, replied the Queen.
Very good. Very good.
They also know if we're late. We picked up the pace, and when we got to the dining room, the Queen sat at the head of the table, and the corgis arranged themselves around the royal ankles. I suspect that a few things always fell off the table into their mouths. I sat next to the Duke of Edinburgh, who drank a glass of pale ale with his lunch.
Ooh.
I know, good detail there. true. As everyone finished their starter, he was deep in conversation with a surgeon about her work. "Philip," came the familiar voice from the opposite end of the table. "Bell." "Oops," he said, and he pressed a small button on a disc that looked like a coaster. Immediately, the door opened and staff appeared to clear the plates. It was like a device that Q might have provided for James Bond. I was intrigued. "Sir, why doesn't the Queen have her own button?" I asked. He looked at me with those famously pale, penetrating eyes. "I've got to be in charge of some things," he said with a twinkle. And I talk in here about how it always amused me greatly that the breed that the Queen chose as her thing were corgis, who absolutely do not do what they're told ever and have no respect
It's
for authority.
funny you mentioning that about the Queen, because I heard on Radio 4 this morning, some others of you might have heard it on Broadcasting House, someone, as part of their newspaper review, chose a story which was the signals the Queen gives via her handbag to her staff.
Oh, changing hands and things. Move me on, yeah.
You know, on the table means something. Opening up, God knows what that means. I mean,
Changing
two
hands,
clicks.
changing hands
Changing
is
hands.
move me on.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Does she change hands a lot when she's with you? Have you noticed that as a sort of thing that goes on?
Actually.
No.
No, because when she about horses and dogs, we always did. And actually, the current King and Queen, the first monarchs to have rescue dogs, so they've got Beth and Bluebell, they're Jack Russells from Battersea, who are very badly behaved.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can we quickly, because we're going to open it up, because I'm sure you've all got lots of questions you'd like to ask Claire, but can I just... I think we should touch on the Olympics quickly, because we also associate Claire with all the huge sort of sporting events, don't we? And no sooner had Claire finished Wimbledon than she was off to Paris. And I watched the Olympics avidly and obviously enjoyed Claire very much. I'm being very polite, aren't I? And anyway, and it was great because the day after she got back from Paris, I asked her around for supper. And she said yes, and I was thrilled because I didn't really want to see her. I just wanted to literally sit her in the kitchen and grill her. And I did, didn't I?
I know you said, "I'm amazed you come. Alison, I'll go anywhere if someone else is cooking." And I was like, yeah.
But I just wanted to know, from the word go, what it was like being there, you know, the opening ceremony and the rain, the whole thing. And it just... It
was, honestly, Paris did such a good job. I never thought... whenever anyone had said to me, what's the highlight of, you know, anything you've ever been to? And I'd say London 2012, without a shadow of a doubt, Olympics and Paralympics. And it was just a wonderful summer of a shared experience. Everyone's so positive, everyone talking about sport, all the different details they wanted and the weird and wonderful things you get into watching. I thought Paris came very, very close to that again. And it gave me that real sense of joy. And I just loved it. I loved being back at the swimming and being there with Becky and Mark and being on site. You know, the last Olympics obviously was, you know, we did from a green screen studio in Salford. We did Tokyo. So believe me, I was ready to be back on site. And but actually those positions at a venue are quite expensive and therefore hard to come by. So I knew I was going to be at the swimming for the first sort of 8-9 days. And that was brilliant because not only have we now got a very strong team and we won, one gold medal, but the 2 silvers, actually 3 silvers, but 2 of them lost by 0.02 of a second. I mean, we were so close to winning 3 gold medals in the pool. But the big joy of it was Léon Marchand, the French swimmer, who meant that the crowds were there right from the word go, and him winning 4 gold medals. I mean, it's so uplifting when you've got that sense of a city and a nation really proud of everything. And
because they were a bit like us to start with, weren't they, the Parisians? In the same way that we all thought it was going to be a disaster.
The negativity building up to any Olympic Games is off the scale. And it's interesting, when presenters are doing an Olympics for the first time, they always go, "Oh my God, it's not going to happen. You know, nothing's built. It's all going wrong." And I'm like, no. This happens every time. Don't worry, it'll be fine. It'll start. And they, "Really? Do you think so?" "Yes, trust me, it'll be fine." And it was brilliant. And I felt for them with that interminably long opening ceremony in the pouring rain.
No, but that could have set the tone badly. It might have turned people off.
After that, it was... And there were elements of that were lovely. I mean, Celine Dion singing on the Eiffel Tower. I mean,
I
that's,
know.
you know, highlights, a bit like men's football. Some things are better in highlights form. Anyway, and that Olympic opening ceremony highlight form, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But
yeah.
The whole length of it. And I was lucky, I was in the studio, so I was covered. I mean, there was a massive leak, actually, in the studio above. The poor Australians came running down and saying, oh, roof is leaking. But our commentators, Andrew Cotter and Hazel Irvine, both absolutely brilliant, were outside in an uncovered commentary position. So Sandy Batho, brilliant floor manager, was holding a tarpaulin over their heads.
Oh, my
and they
God.
were out there for 4.5 hours, and it was freezing, and no information on either who was on which boats, or indeed necessarily the order of them. And with those last, do you remember the bit after Rafa Nadal got the torch, we got to what we thought was the end at Trocadero, and then they get back on a boat and go
when they went
2 miles
back
back
again
down the river, and it's doing this, and Serena Williams looks like
that
she's going to be
nearly
sick.
killed me. When they went back again, I think I had to open a new bottle of gin at that point. I mean, that was just...
Yes. Lucky you. I couldn't, because I was going to have to speak at the end of it. And Nadia Comaneci was on there, and they get down to the end, and then we knew there were going to be 24 French athletes taking the torch then in a sort of relay formation and then lighting that amazing cauldron, the hot air balloon. But they weren't told who was doing what.
But can I just ask, excuse
so
me...
they recognised Amélie Mauresmo, but after that you're a little bit lost.
Why did no one tell them?
Because the French thought it was better as a mystery. I don't know.
So did they... No one knew what order the boats were going?
Also, the French director, who was famous for doing a theatre production that lasted for 48 hours, so let's all, you know, thank our lucky stars it wasn't even longer, he felt that commentators shouldn't be speaking over any of it, really, and just should let it happen. Yeah.
Where do you...
Anyway, but that apart, get back to the positive. So that was amazing in parts, but obviously the weather was awful. The weather for the closing ceremony for the Paralympics was awful, but in between, and they can't control the weather, in between, it was like London, genuinely about 2 events. So the Paralympics was parallel to the Olympics, which is what it's meant to be. In fact, they took that, I thought, even further in the sense that right from the beginning of the Olympics, the rings were on the Eiffel Tower and the Agitos, which is the symbol for the Paralympics, was on the Arc de Triomphe. Yes. And one of the American broadcasters said, we can't show that Arc de Triomphe with that thing on there. And Tony Estanguet, Hot Tony as we called him, we don't call him that in public, but you know, Hot Tony. Hot Tony said, we are hosting 2 events this summer, and you will say exactly what it is and reference what it is.
Oh, we love Hot Tony.
We do. Everybody
loves
Hot Tony.
I'd love to.
He might end up being the next president of France. Everybody adores him.
One more question about it. Because what we'll all remember as well about the 2012 Olympics, for those of us who might have been in London or lucky enough to be around it, were the volunteers, were the equivalent French volunteers.
Yes, but also totally international. So there were volunteers there that had worked on London 2012. I went over on the Eurostar with one, and we had a long chat. And about what he'd done in London and what he was now going to do in Paris. Loads of people, you know, if they can either take the time off work or if they're retired and are lucky enough to be able to, you know, give that time and they like sports, will go and volunteer for major events. So Commonwealth Games, the Olympics, and you get this amazing sort of party of people who will go round to the world's... I think it's great. It's what I might do, actually.
Well, it's better than going on a cruise and actually not getting out of the port.
You never do that. We go on
there's
lots
been
of
a
cruises.
boat in Belfast for 3 years.
Oh, I know. Well, yes. But that's... not 3 years. Is it 3 years?
It was 3 years.
It's 3 months, isn't it?
No, 3 years.
And they finally... Months, that's what I thought. 3 months. She's very loose and free with the truth. You know,
was it only 3 months?
Yes.
Oh, I feel they made a lot of fuss.
No, the cruise is then lasting 3 years, isn't it? That's the way round, yes.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but no, Alice and I love going on a cruise, and we do get off at every port. If we can. I mean, as long as the ship is actually stopping there.
No, I love the thought of volunteers just sort of going around the world.
Yes.
And, so I think we should open
Go for it.
Up to the audience, because there will be so many things you want to ask Claire. Does anyone have anything they want to... Down here, shout loudly, because the microphone... Oh, here it's coming. Look,
No, microphone's
it's
on its way.
so organised. There we go. I like this. It's
Hello.
We don't know what's coming.
Thank you very much for a very entertaining talk. I was particularly enjoyed your impression of the Queen. And I wondered if you had any other impressions that you could do.
Well, we didn't expect that, did we?
No, funny, when I usually, if I tell the story of interviewing Chad's dad, Bert, at the London Olympics, I do fall into a little bit of, that's my boy, unbelievable, Claire, this is unbelievable, look at my boy, my beautiful boy, don't look at me, I am fat. I'm going, no, you're fine. Look at my boy, this is the greatest moment of my life, unbelievable. So that's my South African. Yeah,
I was taken right back.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Because I couldn't think who you meant when you said the name, and then when you
Bert.
started talking, he was adorable,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Chad, oh, what a guy he is. He's sort of now very much towards the end of his career, but I loved what that represented, and this is true of a lot of sports events, and I think particularly true when you get to the Paralympics. Everyone had told him, you can't beat Michael Phelps. Not at an Olympic Games and not in an event that he hasn't been beaten in for 10 years. 200-metre butterfly. You can't beat him. And he did beat him. And at the Paralympics, nearly every single competitor has been told at one stage or another, you can't do this. And they have shown you how they can. And I love that. And I've seen people play table tennis with no arms, so a bat in their mouth and serving with their foot. It is an absolute triumph of what can be done, and I think that it really shifts our perspective, but also it proves the thing I think is true, which is don't tell people that this can be done, show them it can be done. So Chris McCausland on Strictly Come Dancing, where you would go, how can a blind man dance on a show like this? Don't tell people how, show them. And he is showing us every week. Ellie Simmons had the same thing. Well, you can't do Strictly Come Dancing, people might have said. You've got dwarfism. We'll show them you can. Same with Johnny Peacock, with below the leg amputee. It's possible. You just have to find ways in which you help everyone.
Well, that was another of your books, wasn't it? The children's book.
Oh, yeah. Which one? Fall Off. Fall Off, Get Back On, Keep Going. Well done, Annie. Well done.
I just don't want you to think I'm throwing this together.
Yes. But actually, at the Paralympic Games, I worked in the afternoons alongside Rose Ayling-Ellis. Wonderful. God, she's great. But it was the first time a deaf presenter had worked on a live show day in, day out over a period of time. And she's not a sports presenter. She's not a sports expert. She's not a presenter. She's an actress. And it was really, really interesting because straight from the get-go we got on like a house on fire, so that really helped. She had a lovely team of signers, so two sisters called Rebecca and Kirsty, and then a third called Toby, who was gorgeous, and they were there to obviously make sure she could understand talkback, because with live shows we wear an earpiece, and in the earpiece you're not being told what to say, but you're getting what's coming next, in particular with live sport, because that changes. We were going to go to the tennis, but the tennis, they're not out yet, so instead we're going to go to taekwondo. You know, suddenly you've got to know something about who might be on in the taekwondo. With Rose, she would get the talk back from a signer, but she'd also have a signer sat next to me interpreting what I was saying, or indeed a guest who was on the sofa. What I loved about Rose...
So she had three different
But because two of them were rotating. Yeah. Because doing sign language works parts of your brain that I think only 7 other jobs do, of having to take it in. It's exhausting. So... they rotate fairly regularly because otherwise your brain just can't cope with it. But interestingly, she also had an iPad in front of her, so that would go on a color code for timings. To be honest, that is a really useful thing for me as well, because the swimming arena is incredibly noisy and you can't always hear your talkback. So we found ways. It taught me more about communication and about teamwork than I think anything I've ever done. And we're constantly messaging each other because I think we miss each other. And I'd say, oh, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to talk about you again. And she went, oh, well, say hi from me. So she would say hi if she knew I was talking about her.
But that must have been shattering for her. You're talking about the signers finding it exhausting. Yeah,
she was. And actually, after 4 or 5 days, I think she was really, really finding it. She was like, how can you do this?
But also because she has...
Well, because this is what I do.
But also, it's what you do, and you've got the information to impart. If you're not a sports presenter, she hasn't got that
She'd done so much homework, though, honestly, and that's why I had a massive amount of time and admiration for her.
Yeah.
Because she'd come in with because she saw me taking notes on the first day, and she goes, "Oh, is that what you do?" I said, "Well, I'd quite like to have a little notebook where I've got things written in, because then I can refer back to, if I'm having to remember when somebody won a gold medal, was it day 1 or 2, and what was the event, I'll have it in here so I can, flip back." And she went, okay, so every day then she'd come in with a little hardback book. She had tons of notes on loads of different swimmers. I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
And she loved it. I mean, she really got into it and started to really care about results, and about, different people and how they were, what they had to say in interviews afterwards.
Yeah.
And we had 2 monitors for the live feed, and then we had a 3rd monitor that was on Channel 4 with subtitles. So it'd be slightly delayed, about 4 or 5 seconds behind. But that, again, was really helpful, because if I couldn't hear an interview, I could actually see what they were saying. So there were loads of things that were just
But
great.
lucky, you're saying Rose was very inspiring, but I mean, lucky her having you as a mentor. And I'm not going to be nice again. Anyone else got a question? Yes, down here. Oh.
Thank you so much. We're having such fun listening to you. Now, am I going potty? But I think I remember seeing you ramble around the Isle of Wight with your dogs on television a few years back.
I tell you exactly what that was. It was a programme called Britain by Bike. And it was quite a long time ago. Didn't have the dogs with me, but I was on a very old bike, which was bloody uncomfortable and very hard to control. So I got off it quite a lot. Mainly the shots of me pushing the bike along. But yeah, I did do that here.
Yeah.
Because I'm hoping that you might be tempted to come back next year to do a ramble around the Isle of Wight with your dog. Which I'm in the middle of organising for charity.
We're recording Ramblings tomorrow. Oh. Me and Alan. He's taking me for Alan Titchmarsh. Sorry, it was me and Alan. He's next on stage. But yes, that's because wherever I go, if I can, because life's quite, there's a lot going on, which is lovely. But if I can fit a Ramblings in, I will. And I've got a fantastic producer who Anneka's worked with as well, called Karen. And I said to Karen, "Oh, look, I'm coming to the Isle of Wight. I'm doing the Literary Festival. Should we try and do a Ramblings the next day?" So that's what we're doing tomorrow. And similarly, when I go and do Petworth in a week or so, we'll do a walk not far away. And somewhere more recently we fitted something in. Yeah. But it's good for me as well, because it means I'm not just dropping into a place, giving a talk and leaving. I'm coming and sort of, being here.
This is a ramble, a bit like the Campastillo.
I see, the one that's all the way round.
And it's going to last a year to encourage every young person to bring their
I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying. That sounded quite funny there. So I can't give you a year.
They're going to have a stamp. And so people will have 365 days to do it in. So if Granny's a bit slow getting from Sandown to Shanklin, doesn't matter.
Oh, fantastic. I think you ought to I think the person to launch this for you is actually sitting here on stage. Very keen walker, and could do the whole thing in probably 3 days. So,
we did a lovely Ramblings together.
Oh, yes, we've done a Ramblings together.
To be fair, I did ask Claire if we could do it at the Isle of Wight, but it was COVID.
Yes.
Do you remember? So we had to keep it very local.
And I had to keep her at least 10 metres away from it.
This is not until May
under the restraining order.
Hopefully you'll be able to do it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good to know about that. We'll make sure we talk about it on
Are you
the
all
programme
fans of Ramblings? It's joyful, isn't it? It's such a great format. I can't believe it. 12 years or something. No.
25
25 years.
I started it in 1999.
Bloody hell. Any other questions?
But on Ramblings briefly, so Lucy Lunt was the original producer who Alan's worked with, and she rang me and said she'd seen me on a show where I think I'd been telling a story about nearly killing Princess Anne in a race, which is, it's a good story actually. But anyway, so she rang me, she thought, she looks good fun. I wonder if she would do this walking program. So she rang me and she said, "Do you walk?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I walk." Thinking to myself, I walk the dogs. I genuinely didn't realise that there was a whole load of people who walked without dogs. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's what she means. Never mind, I'll do it, and we'll see where we go. So I knew a little bit. I'm quite good with maps, but I'm not particularly good in actually reading an OS map and giving grid references. I'm always getting it the wrong way around. Because I can never remember if it's up the stairs and along the corridor or along the land. I never quite get that in my head. So I'm constantly giving out grid references the wrong way around. But now my producer does it for me, so I know exactly where we're starting. So we started the programme. My agent at the time said, I don't understand why you want to do this for Radio 4. The money's terrible. It's a walking programme. It's never going to last. Waste of time. And I said, because I just really want to do it. I want to be, I'd love to do a show on Radio 4. I love radio, and that's where I started. And I want to discover more about this fantastic country, frankly, and do it more than just knowing where the race courses are, which I'm very good at. But, you know, there are counties that don't even have race courses. Cornwall being one of them, and I've never been. So I've got to go to places like Dumfries and Galloway or Northumberland, which I love. And Cornwall, Devon, off-season, terrific. In-season, don't touch it. But, you know about seasonal life. But yeah, it's been great, and we thought maybe it'll last 3 series. Well, you know, 25 years later, and by the way, that agent didn't last very long either. So
there's a very young lad in the front row who's got a question for you.
Yes, please, may I ask a question?
Yes, of course you can.
When we do our rambling tomorrow,
yes,
please can you get me back before the end of the year, because I've got quite a bit to do.
I will try my best. I'll also make sure you don't have to talk while walking uphill, because that is not easy.
Thank you for remembering my age.
No, just generally.
We loved the Olympics, and one of the highlights, really, you're always there with the facts, which is brilliant. You always say facts are my friend. One of the delights of the swimming particularly was watching Rebecca Adlington become emotional. It was just delightful, so into it. And you're always so in control, Claire. Moments when you've been emotional and nearly lost it. Have there been any?
Interesting, it happened at the Olympics. So Andy Murray and Dan Evans were playing doubles, and, you know, I've covered tennis for a very long time, since 1995, 96, my first Wimbledon for 5 Live. So I have seen Andy Murray from the very beginning, and I don't know him well. I know Judy quite well. I know Jamie actually better, who's now director at the tournament director at Queen's. But I've interviewed Andy a lot, and I really appreciate his support of women, his constant correction of people. If they say, you're the first player to do this, he'll say, I'm the first man to successfully defend an Olympic title. I think you'll find the Williams sisters had done that before. He had Amelie Mauresmo as his coach, first time a top man in the professional game had ever had a female coach. He has, I think, as well, coped with an incredibly negative press in the early days. And what he has done on court, you know, in terms of being world number 1 in the era of Federer and Djokovic and Nadal, in terms of winning Wimbledon twice and winning a Davis Cup for Britain, but everything has been such a high level. But really what he has done in the last 3 or 4 years of trying to get back from that hip surgery, I found very moving, because there was never really, in most of our minds, never a chance he could get back to the heights he'd been at, and yet he was determined that this would not be the end. He wanted to achieve more, and then I'm afraid, you know, it wasn't possible. So to see him then play at the Olympics, having had the operation on the cyst on his back, and I'd watched him limp off at Queen's thinking, he's never setting foot on a court again, that's it. He then plays, obviously, Wimbledon, manages to play doubles there, has an amazing send-off on centre, gets to the Olympics, and it was after they lost, and I knew that's it, that's the last time. So I did all the stuff on air, you know, with all the information I wanted to impart and all the things I wanted to say. And then it came back in vision, and I just suddenly, as you sometimes are, the cameras go off him, he's left the court, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's it. And I looked at Becky and just went, you need to say something. Because I couldn't. I was so... and she looked at me and went, oh my God, you've gone. And Claire Edmondson, who's doing my makeup, suddenly appeared in shot with a tissue. And I had to pull myself together. But yeah, I do feel things. Sometimes I think it's important to feel things. And
well, I think audiences love that.
Yeah.
That connection.
I mean, it's happened a couple of times. You know, my brother won the Oaks. It happened then as well. Then first year he was training, I couldn't interview him. I was absolutely hopeless. Yeah.
But the thing about Andy Murray, there's something about something sort of very boy next door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You feel he wears his heart on his sleeve, or he certainly has in the last few years.
Yeah.
Now we've got to know him a bit better.
I think that's it, and I think the way things turned actually, and it's an important reminder to all of us that sometimes showing vulnerability is the key to people really understanding you. It was when he lost to Roger Federer in the final at Wimbledon, and he cried on court with Sue interviewing him, and then came out, 2-3 weeks later and won the gold medal at the Olympics on the same court.
Yeah.
You know, that's when opinion shifted.
Yes.
But don't forget how much you get played by the way stories are told. And I'm constantly questioning, if I see photos of someone constantly looking angry and miserable, they don't look like that all the time, but that's the story the papers are trying to paint of them. And that's the photos of Andy Murray were always of him roaring in a very kind of aggressive way. The papers were terrible with Judy as well. And it's really, we've got to read it ourselves. You've got to, as in, read the room, read the situation, follow the person. And I try very hard not to get swayed by an opinion that's being pushed at me by certain outlets, and whether that be online or newspapers.
And we've literally got 5 minutes left. One final brilliant question, please. And then Claire's going to stay behind so she can meet as many of you as possible and sign her book, which will be exciting.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. Do you have a favourite type of breed of dog to go walking with?
Favourite breed of dog to go walking with? Well, part of the drive for this programme was to find the next dog, right? So that's why I made Alice come along with me to so many different places and things, and really just to meet other people's dogs and cuddle puppies and things like that. So we did, it was fun. I'm doing quite a lot with the Dogs Trust now, and my first port of call will be there, because I'd love to give a rescue dog a home if we can. Our criteria are that it needs to be non-shedding, because Alice is allergic to dog. I mean, she's allergic to cats as well, but we've got 2 of them. But yeah, so a breed that doesn't. That's why we had a Tibetan Terrier before. I do love a poodle, and I think they're such intelligent little dogs, and no wonder they are the breed of choice for a lot of crossbreeds. I was very taken. There's a breed called a Hungarian Pumi that has big sticky uppy ears and very soft hair, but I have been warned by people who have had them that they're herding dogs, and therefore they'll constantly be at you to get you, to where they want to pen you, and also very vocal. But understanding different breeds, what they've been. There was an Italian Spinoni on the Red Funnel on the way over, and it was a really interesting conversation. The people in front were asking them about the dog and what was it, and I had to stop myself thinking it's an Italian Spinoni. But I did. I was very, very controlled. Anyway, then the owners were talking about what Italian Spinonis were bred for, and that I love that. So when I do Crufts, which obviously I've been doing for years, there were 224 different pedigree breeds at Crufts this year. And when it first started, there were probably 10. But you'll constantly get a new breed. So the Lagotto Romagnolo that won the year before last, that's an Italian truffle hunting dog. They're gorgeous, really, really clever dogs. They're non-shedding, actually, in quite tight curls, Alice, just as nice dogs. And Orca, she'd come over from Croatia, actually. That's where she lived. And, not on her own, obviously with her owner and handler. And she just wagged her tail the whole way through Best in Show. She was the happiest dog. And I love that about Crufts. Lots of people don't like the idea of dog shows, but I like the sharing of information and also different breeds. So I'm quite fond of a miniature Schnauzer. I think they're cracking dogs. And what I've noticed is miniature Schnauzer owners are really bonded. Like they meet up together, and you'll see 20 miniature Schnauzers together getting walked.
Bearing in mind you're going to grow into your dog's looks.
Yes, that'd be quite a good look for me, I think.
Can you run it by me first?
You should definitely have a lovely blonde Afghan hound.
Oh, thanks.
Athletic, long legs, up for challenge.
Right, obviously, yeah. Claire, that has just been so lovely. I hope you all feel you've got to know Claire a bit more and heard about her wild and wonderful life, which is so full, and I mean, it must be so fulfilling for you to have that in your diary of all those momentous events that you're covering.
I genuinely,
it's extraordinary.
I love the variety of it. I love the. So I don't have a daily show. I don't even have a weekly show. That I don't have regular. You know, I don't repeat. I never get bored because it's always different, and live sport is always different.
Yeah,
so.
well, it shows. I mean, it's just a joy to watch you. Claire, I don't know where we do the book signing thingy. Out there,
I'm being
somewhere
waved.
else. We will bugger off because the next person's coming in.
Swearing.
Oh, stop! No, it is in the Isle of Wight. We always say bugger off.
Can I just apologise again for anyone who was offended?
It's an Isle of Wight thing. It's an Isle of Wight thing to say we're
Is it?
buggering off. Yeah,
oh, is it?
definitely.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Local lingo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clare Balding.